This Sentry fire safe does not have a key, so I'm going to show you how to completely rekey it. I got this thing at a thrift store for about $5, which is great, so I'm excited to be able to use it again. Set of keys here. This is from a completely different lock, so this does not open. But this is a pair of old keys, and it fits into this track at least. So we're going to pull this apart and refit the brass to these keys. These are the two bolts that hold the barrel on, so we'll go ahead and pull it off to get access to it. Alright, off comes the front. Alright, put the bolts off. There it is. When I pulled this off, these two little pins here broke. I guess they're just thin aluminum cast pins, so they're kind of cheap. So we're gonna have to drill these out and probably put some new pegs in there to hold it on, but this doesn't experience a lot of horizontal or axial force anyway, so that won't really be a problem. So this side of the barrel comes out this direction, and then the other part comes out the opposite side. So you can see the brass pins in here, and if you look on the inside of this, there's these grooves which will prevent this from turning while these are sticking out. And I have a random key here that happens to fit the same slot system, and you can see as I put it in, it aligns the pins, it pulls these down, but now these are sticking out too far, and so somehow we're going to have to align it so that this key pushes the pins the right amount. So you can see that when the brass is up like that, I can't spin it, but if we were able to push the brass down, then it would be able to clear that groove and turn. So I got a couple different keys here that all fit into it. This one fits pretty snugly, it feels pretty good. This is a little bit loose, and I'm also noticing that pin there, so you can see the key is very low in that area, and so when I put it in, it doesn't push this little pin down at all. So we're gonna have to actually add material to the key somehow if we wanted that one to work, but I don't know, it's pretty loose, maybe not. And then this guy here also fits pretty well, but again, we need to add material because that's sticking up quite a bit. This guy, we only need to either add just a little bit, or in this case, we could probably just grind off a little bit of the corners of the brass. That would probably work. And then we need to remove a little bit of material from the key for these three slots. So with the key in here, I can see that the last three pins are the ones that we need to remove material from the key. So if I just kind of line it up like this, how it would be, I can see that this groove, that one, and that one there are the three that need to be a little easier to figure out how much further I need to go. I'm gonna stick this piece of tape on here and mark it. So now, I don't wanna stick this in too many times because it'll mess up and get jammed, but that way I can get a rough idea for how much I need to take off of this thing and then mark it on here. I just used the depth of the pencil lead here when I measured it on here, and then I'm able to kind of just rub it across to get the right distance, at least to get me in the ballpark. So the three slots are now marked, and I'll start filing. Alright, that's a little bit better, but we need to go a little bit more. That's way closer. This guy is almost there. I think just a hair more. Look like they're in about the right place. We'll have to test it out here in a minute. And then this last one, we either need to add to the key or take off a little of the brass. And since it's just a small amount, I'm willing to take off some of the brass. So just putting it back in here to test now. The key's in there and I'm able to spin it, but sometimes it locks up a little bit. I'm gonna take a little bit more off just so that it glides. All right, put it in there and there we go, look at that. Pull out the key and that ain't going anywhere. So to put this back together, this is gonna go back on here with the little pin down in that slot there to lock the direction. And if I really wanted to, I could drill these out and put some new pins in, but I think there's enough surface area that epoxy glue will work just fine. So this is gonna go back into here with the flat spots aligned. This will come in vertical like that. So when we put the epoxy on here, we're gonna have to be careful that it only goes on this inner rod here. We don't want it locking this system. All right, pin goes back in. Works perfectly. And the last thing is just to add the nuts again. So now we've got a working fire safe.